Ready? Okay. Call to order the regular board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 3.1, request to address the governing board. We have none, so we'll move on to our public hearing, convening our public hearing 4.1. A public hearing is needed for the presentation of the fiscal year 2023 annual expenditure budget. Two, truth and taxation. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Good evening, President DeCosta, members of the board, Superintendent Eastless, and the Agua Fria community. Tonight we've got a public hearing with a couple budget-related items. At our last meeting in June, the board approved a proposed budget. After that action was taken, the district complied with all of our statutory requirements to publish that budget summary, and also publish a truth and taxation hearing notice. That the budget would be considered and adopted at tonight's meeting. So we made sure that all those publications were met. And so tonight we're bringing back the same budget that we brought a month ago. But specifically, item 4.2 is on the truth and taxation notice. That public notice is required anytime we levy any amount of adjacent ways. So what that is, adjacent ways, we typically do these levies anytime we're opening a new high school, like Canyon View, like we're doing with Goodyear High School. We did with our transportation facility when we built and opened that. Those funds are used for things such as sidewalks, utility lines, traffic signals, some of these other public assets. What we did a year ago was, rather than levy the entire amount of adjacent ways on the community in 1 year, we put together a plan to bring back multiple years of adjacent ways. So what you see in our next year's budget, what's in front of you tonight, is kind of a continuation of what we started last year. So that adjacent ways levy is the same rate that the board adopted and levied last year. That same rate will be a part of our FY25 budget. I'm happy to take any questions from the board on specifically to adjacent ways.
Mr. Shepherd, why can we not use other funds for these adjacent ways projects, like our bond funds or any of our general fund dollars?
So typically, these end up being assets that the district's not going to own. A lot of these are half street improvements, things that get, we would create as easements and give back or donate back to the city to maintain and keep up. Same thing with utility providers and things of that nature. So they're not capital assets that end up on our capital asset listing that we depreciate and kind of own. In the long term, these are more community benefit assets. And
we are prohibited by state law from using general fund dollars or bond dollars on those sorts of projects, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then with this increase last year, we were able to offset it through our secondary levy, through the growth that we've had in our district, more people moving in, more people paying taxes, meaning we were able to offset this within the overall tax rate. I assume that is still the case this year. I know I asked about it last month. I just want to ask about it again.
Yeah, so what you might notice, I think it's in the attachment on that agenda item is, and like we discussed last month, our community continues to grow, and the assessed valuation within the community is going up again for this year. I think it's 16.7%. So while we're maintaining that rate that the board set a year ago, you'll see the actual amount per 100,000 of assessed value actually decline. So a year ago that was $41.79. This year ahead that's going to be $46.55. It's actually declining down to $39.78.
Okay. That's all I got going there.
I'd like to thank Mr. Terry for his questions. Those were similar questions that I had. I do appreciate that this would be not a tax increase for our school district and all of our residents. So I just wanted to make sure that that was very clear in public.
I appreciate it. And it can be confusing, so we are kind of directed by statute in how we have to communicate that, including a very specific, down to the size of the font that must be used when we advertise that. It's very prescriptive, and it does look like a new tax. Like if it didn't exist, this is what your property tax would be, but instead it's going to be this. What it doesn't really articulate is that we had this tax in place last year. It's kind of maintaining that. So it can be confusing if you're just looking at it on the surface. It could appear as a new levy.
And I know you and I have discussed this, but we are required by law to send this and share this with our community. As we discussed, it would be really great if we could actually, in addition to providing that, communicate with our residents that there will not be a tax increase. Whether that is in our publications that go in the newspapers, there can be an ad right next to it that actually says, good news, we're required by law to post this, but the truth is, there is no tax increase to you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Shepherd, I had one more. How many various types of levies do we have? I'm not trying to trick you here, but I know we have a primary levy, secondary levy, we have a bond levy, an M&O levy, as well as adjacent ways. So to my knowledge, there are 5 different levies. We don't have a DAA, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So of those, our bond and our current M&O override are community, they're sort of voted on and put into place by our community. As a board, we really have influence on this adjacent ways override. Adjacent ways levy. The board can't just levy any tax amount, and there are certain restrictions. I will also note, all of these adjacent ways expenditures we're required to go through some oversight with the school facilities division. They have to review, make sure they're all appropriately used before we're able to spend those. So there's additional oversight of those funds as well.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that we have 5 different levies, so when one goes up, another one may go down, and then you're overall paying the overall number of those buckets together. So that was the purpose of my question. Now I'm done, I promise.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shepherd. All right,
I believe the next one's mine as well, sorry.
Yeah, then I'll just say 4.3, go ahead.
So the next item is specifically on the FY25 budget. Again, it's the same budget that we brought to you a month ago. A couple notes, when the board approved that budget, the state didn't actually have a state budget established yet. So we proposed that budget on what they call preliminary or draft forms, which are really kind of the same formula amounts that we had going into this year. So because of that, the state now has adopted a budget, and there are new final budget forms. We will be moving our budget into those forms and bringing back a revision at your September meeting. Really, the biggest differences in that is basically the per pupil amount is being adjusted up 2%. That's what we anticipated, so it was good to see that that's what is in the final budget. And then our DAA amount is increasing slightly. We expected that as well. The one unexpected piece is just that that's coming to us as one-time dollars in next school year, so we'll just have to be intentional about how we allocate those dollars. But just a couple notes on the budget. Otherwise, it is the same budget that we presented at last month's meeting, and again, we'll be bringing it back for revision in September.
I do have a question. So on page 6 of the 8, there's a line item that says school plant. What does that mean? Because the prior budget to this budget changed by about $2 million. And I don't know what a line item for school plant references.
So I believe that school plant fund is where we're actually accounting for our lease purchase financing funds. So back when we built Fort X and opened that, we basically took a loan through a lease purchase. So you're seeing, and over the last couple of years, we've received some updated guidance that it shouldn't be accounted for in this fund, it should be accounted for in that school plan fund. So you're gonna see the increase as we move that out of our capital fund into that. But there's not really any new formula dollars that are associated with that. Those are a lot of what we receive through community use of our facilities. Anytime we lease out our facilities to community groups, churches, things like that, those all go into that fund. But that's where we're also accounting for the lease purchase.
The lease purchase. So would that have been allocated in a different line item prior?
Yeah, it would have rolled up into our, just our overall capital fund.
Any other questions, Mr. Shepherd? Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you.
We will adjourn the public hearing and return to regular session.
Be it resolved, the governing board adjourn the public hearing.
I second.
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 5.1, approval of, consideration of the approval of the minutes of the June 5th regular meeting.
Be it resolved, the governing board approves the minutes of the June 5th, 24 regular board meeting, public hearing, and executive sessions as presented.
I second that.
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis abstain.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. Item 6.1, consideration of approval of the maintenance and operation and district additional assistance fund budgets for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Be it resolved that the governing board approve the maintenance and operations and district additional assistant fund budgets for the 24-25 fiscal year as presented.
Second?
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 6.2, authorization to levy taxes to support adjacent waste funds. Any questions, or do I have a motion?
Be it resolved, the governing board approves to levy an increase of property taxes for the adjacent ways fund.
Second?
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 6.3, renewal of the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Avondale for school resource officer for the 24-25 school year. Do we have questions or a motion?
I have one that I have every year.
Mhm.
Mr. Eastless, I'll direct it to you unless you direct otherwise, but we are missing the City of Goodyear with our IGA with a school resource officer. My understanding that is a 2-year agreement that we are in the middle of, and that's why it is not included. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you.
Be it resolved, the governing board approves the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Avondale for school resource officer for the 24-25 school year.
Second?
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 6.4, renewal of the IGA with the City of Buckeye for school resource officer for the 24-25 school year.
Be it resolved, the governing board approves the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Buckeye for school resource officer for the 24-25 school year.
Second?
Terry, yes?
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 6.5, board policy adoption, first reading and adoption of policy 4-302. Mr. Stratman's here to present if anyone has questions.
I do have a question, but are you presenting?
Or,
Yeah, I'll try to answer your question. If not, I think Julie's here, she can help as well, so. Board member, board president, DeCoste, members of the board, I'm here to answer any questions you have on the first reading.
thank you.
If you wanna, just briefly, this, as I said, when we got through this cumbersome process, last month, we might have a few things we missed in the crossover from our old policies to this one. This is the first of those that we recognized. We actually recognized it, Julie recognized it either the day just before or day of our final adoption. So I told her at that time it was too late to put on the agenda. We'll just follow up with it. So that's why it's here. Essentially, this was in our old ASBA policy manual of payout of sick leave when employees retire or resign from the district, if they have a certain number of years of service, they get on a stepped-up basis, a payout of a percentage of their sick days. So this just takes the old policy and puts it into the new. It's not a new policy to the district. It's new in our format, but we've been doing this under our old policy.
Any questions?
Yes. My question pertains really to the title and the action that's being recommended here. It says first reading and adoption, but this is just a first reading. It's not actually being adopted. It would
Yeah.
come to us for a second read next month, correct?
It's a first reading. That's what I recommended. You do have authority as a board. I didn't recommend it in this scenario. You do have authority as a board to waive second reading and adopt it tonight. You could do that if you wanted to. That's there. I could walk you through that, but I had intended it to go on as a first reading tonight, second reading. If we have any payouts between now and then, I've recommended to the HR staff to just put on for approval on our normal personnel action items between now and the second reading.
I don't recall us ever waiving that
You have the
before.
ability to do that. It's a little bit complex. This isn't as big of an issue where I'd recommend it.
Okay.
So I would do it as a first reading tonight, second reading at the next meeting. We can get through the next couple of months if we have somebody who qualifies for this in July or August.
And then if this is just a first read, it does not require a motion or any action from the governing board, correct?
Just answering questions this evening, it'll be back on for next month.
That's the only questions I have.
Any other questions? Okay, we will look for it as a second read and adoption next month then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have questions or anything they would like pulled for discussion?
I would like to pull 7.5 and 7.14 for questions.
Any others?
Okay, 5 and what?
7.5
5 and 14.
So, be it resolved, the governing board approved the consent agenda minus 7.5 and 7.14.
I'm just asking for additional
Okay.
information. I don't.
And I withdraw my motion.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, 7.5, the extra duty compensation guide. Who would like to answer questions? Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Can you tell me about this new stipend that's in red?
The freshman mentor advisor.
Yeah.
Stipend. So Sarah, actually, you'd be able to explain a little more. That came from the academics team. Mr. Allen and Ms. Yumi. So, good evening. President, members, board superintendent, community. Our freshman, last year we started a freshman mentor program, and the goal of that is to help with the transition of our freshmen into high school with mentoring. We have a group of from sophomores to seniors who apply for this position to do different activities for them. Last year it worked out well because we had advisory every week. They went into the classroom to assist advisory teachers with lessons on character and organizational skills, help them learn the way of high school. This also required advisors to supervise these students, create lessons with these students, do activities with these students, and they were not compensated for that. Last year, those advisors and those students held 2 summits, one in the fall and one in the spring, which took additional time beyond their day to plan those out, and they were not compensated for that. We feel that this is an important piece to help our freshmen transition, and have requested that those advisors be compensated for that additional time that's beyond their regular day.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Grosset.
I will add that my son was a freshman mentor, and it was a great program.
All right.
They put a Sarah when she said that she just says it much
And much, very fast too, very good, okay. Then 7.1 for the food service Increase of lunch prices, who would like to respond to
Mr. Shepherd
this?
will take this one.
Oh, it's your big night.
I know. Good evening again.
So I know everything is super expensive. I know that right now. And I know the cost is going up. So I'm making an assumption that we wouldn't increase the cost if it absolutely wasn't necessary to do so. It looks like we have, I'm looking on the second page and it's in the bottom chart. Free reduced percentages, it looks like we have an increase in free and reduced costs, or students who need participation, thank you. My question is, as the CEP guidelines have changed recently in Arizona, or maybe that's a federal thing, I don't know, have we considered looking at CEP for our Title I schools?
That's a great question, and I think, so absolutely we have. A lot of this is new to me, but we've got a very experienced food service director who's advocating for any way we can make sure that kids in our communities that need meals are receiving meals. They provide a lot of worksheets to kind of calculate what that would mean financially. At this point, we're just not quite at the numbers where it wouldn't be a significant investment out of our M&O budget to move that direction. But we are constantly looking at it, and the minute we feel like that is a move that we could support without it just putting a lot of pressure on our regular general budget, I think we'd love to bring that to the board for consideration. You're right, we really don't like to increase meal prices unless absolutely necessary. We've looked back over the last couple of years since we've come out of COVID, and our food service program historically is self-sustaining. They really don't make any money for the district, but they really don't lose any money for the district. In the last couple of years, we've had to support that program out of our M&O budget to where we just, we need to make some small changes to correct that. And so the meal price increase is just one sort of strategy amongst a bunch that our food service department's looking at just to become more efficient, build menus differently to be able to try to control some of the costs. But to answer your question, yes, there's the CEP program and the Provision 2 program with CEP. We're looking at what those would mean. We'd likely see it at our Title I schools before we could look at something district-wide. But it's absolutely something we have explored, continue, and will continue to explore. We'd be happy to even share some of that detail with the board at a future point too.
And so the only thing that's increasing is the price of the meal. So if you want to go to the snack bar and get tater tots, nothing else is increasing, it's just the price of the meal?
I don't think I could say that truthfully. I think we're looking at, so those are the only board action is to set that meal price, that reimbursable meal price. We will probably evaluate what we're charging, what things cost, and try to make sure that that's in alignment. I don't think we expect to just make everything more expensive. And again, I want to just repeat for the board, for the public, that any students in our community that need a free meal or reduced meal, those services are not changing or going anywhere. This is really just that full price meal, and trying to increase that just to make sure we can sustain that food service program operation.
One last question. Do we own our own vending machines or do we go through a third party?
We have a contracted third party for our vending machines.
Would we ever consider running it to make more money so that we could pass the savings on to our rhetorical question? I know that you can't answer.
I'd be it's not something I personally dug into to look at the math and see what that would mean, but I'd be happy to look into that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Be it resolved, we pass the consent agenda.
I second.
Terry, yes.
Colton, yes.
Landis, yes.
DeCoste.
Acton, yes.
So excited. DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 8.1, comments from Superintendent Eastless.
President DeCoste, members of the board, thank you very much for all you've done over the summer to help our staff get ready for this new school year. I do want to report that we are very grateful to our community for passing our bonds, and as Mr. Huffman, Deputy Superintendent Operations, mentioned at our retreat a couple of days ago, we have over 70, or about 70 projects going on right now over the summer on the upkeep, remodeling, fixing, all the maintenance on all of our facilities. If you would like to take some time with any one of Mr. Huffman's staff to take a tour to see everything that's going on, it is construction 100% all on all campuses. So we appreciate voters for doing that. We are also in pretty good shape. We do know that there's a teacher shortage, and we're out there trying to make sure that we have staff for every school. Want to thank Julie Jones and her staff for working with the principals to do what we can, but I think we're in pretty good shape heading into the next several weeks when we actually start school regarding staffing. It's not perfect. There's a lot of people on 6/5 contracts. We are still looking at hiring some of the critical needs like math, science, and ESS staff. However, we'll be able to open school and have a teacher in all of our classrooms. I think the next time we meet, school will have already started, so you will be getting information from Karen regarding all the things that are happening on campuses as we get started. But we've had a very productive summer with a lot of professional development. We've had a lot of work done on all our facilities, and HR has been working extremely hard again to get all the teachers that we need in the classroom. So in about a week or two, we'll be ready to open school.
Thank you. Governing board summary of current events. Would you like to start, Mr. Terry? We'll just go down the line.
Sure. Been hot summer. Lately, that's my summary of, haven't been too busy the last couple weeks in my personal capacity, but I did want to point out that earlier this week we held our leadership retreat, as you all know, and we were able to have folks not only from district departments, but the principals and assistant principals and a few other staff from each of our sites there as well, just kind of getting geared up for, as Mr. Easel said, the school year is coming, just 3 weeks away, I believe. And yeah, it's almost there, so it's just nice to see everyone kind of get those gears spinning and getting ready for the new school year. And then I know I had a discussion with Mr. Huffman earlier today, and something that was of concern there, and I've heard in the community, as Mr. Eastless mentioned, some of our construction projects, there was some worry about our athletic fields and the timing of that being ready for the beginning of our athletic season. And to my understanding, as relayed from Mr. Huffman, is we have actually made up progress in the last couple weeks, and we are back on, if not ahead of schedule, to make sure that our sites are ready to go come this fall athletic season. So that was a little bit of good news, and I will leave it there.
All right. Well, summer's a great time. I love the hot weather. Call me crazy, but I moved here for the warm temperatures, so I'm loving it. Just wanted to share a few details of my schedule. As Mr. Terry had mentioned about different construction projects, I've had the opportunity multiple times to go to Canyon View and Desert Edge to see the progress on their track and football fields, track at Desert Edge as well as field, and field at Canyon View. It has been exciting to see the different phases and how those projects are progressing. Also have had the opportunity to see the expansion Desert Edge, that project that's going on and what's to come. So I'm very excited about that and how that will enhance the learning environment for students at Desert Edge. The leadership retreat was a great time. I'd like to thank our chief, Ms. Gross, on the planning and preparation that you and your team did to facilitate and create a schedule that I think was very insightful for all of those who attended. A lot of key components in academic services and such, and with our strategic plan, so that everybody knew the direction of where we're going, what we're doing, and the outcome of how it will help our students. So really appreciated that. I had the privilege this summer to be able to attend Skills USA and FCLA. First time I wear a t-shirt to a meeting. But given that CTE is so important in the transition and coming of our academies, it's important to me. I taught as a CTE, computer applications teacher, at some point. So CTE is near and dear to my heart. And so to be able to go and see at national competitions all of our students who participated at Skills USA and FCCLA competing for national championships earned seconds and third places, 16 medals of those representing our district. So I am so excited and proud of them to see their successes and to learn their stories for those that graduate, how they're going to move on, and in many cases full ride scholarships to local universities. So proud of our students. Just wanted to share those experiences. So those are my comments, and I sure appreciate our kids.
Thank you. I have nothing new to add to that.
Yeah, it's summer.
I don't feel like.
President
I need to
DeCoste, with
share.
your permission, I have one more recognition I would like to do that I forgot.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. I do want to recognize 3 of our alum athletes. Millennium alum Deron Holmes was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. A couple weeks ago, did want to recognize that, as well as, I'm not sure if we had more, but I do know from the Millennium community, we had 2 former swimmers compete in the Olympic trials, Kennedy Noble and Jaden Neighbor. And I know Kennedy missed out on the team going to Paris by 1 single spot in the 100-meter backstroke. So I know she's gearing up for 4 years from now and going to give it another go. So just wanted to recognize and congratulate some of our alum who are taking their athletic talents further after graduation. So now I am done, I promise.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's all we have for that. Do we have any future requests for agenda items?
It's summer, so I wasn't expecting anything in the near term, but I just want to kind of restate from last month, whether it be a study session or something for our board on capital needs and prioritizing capital needs. I would appreciate that, as well as drawing attention to, we have an administrative policy on club and activity fees that conflicts with board policy 5-106. It just needs to be taken care of one way or the other. That's all. I just want to draw attention to that. And that is it.
Thank you. Any other future agenda items?
I have just a couple. I know, Mr. Islas, you've been working on the meet and greet opportunity for our elementary public school districts, as well as us as a governing board. Do you have an update on, I know you've been working on it?
Yes, Mr. Colton, I had met with the superintendents of Avondale and Litchfield. They have gone back to their board, and we're looking at scheduling something for the first semester.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your effort with that. And of course, it's a neat opportunity for us as a community and a region to have a chance to meet and support each other's efforts for our students age 5 all the way up through 18 and beyond. So thank you.
Maybe something on a future study session about an update on our marketing campaign with the academies. The, commercial is great, I'm seeing it everywhere, but what's the next step, please? Thank you.
I, at the retreat, heard everyone being so thankful for having more PD time, which of course we voted on and changed the calendar. And so, it doesn't have to be an item on the agenda, but I would love to see a professional development plan for the year, which includes academic achievement and increase of ACT. I saw on the schedule that I was talking to Julie about that there are 2 stipends in there for ACT, so it looks like there's opportunity for some people to be compensated for planning for more ACT activities.
Good idea.
Okay. All
Good
right.
stuff.
Thank you, sounds good. We have an executive session now, so I'd like to call for executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A3. The board may vote to hold an executive session for discussion, consultation, and legal advice from the attorney for board to receive an update and advice on pending litigation related to the district and the Arizona School Facilities Oversight Board. Whoops, I hit the wrong button there. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Be resolved, the governing board adjourn, or recess into, is it recess? Recess the regular meeting and adjourn into executive session as presented.
It's one sentence.
Second.
Terry, yes.
Colton, yes.
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. We will now move into executive session.
Thank you for
We're in
asking.
the
Which way are we?
process.
Yeah, I think she looks pretty. One night to lose out. No. I can't remember. We tried for one, either for one night just to see how, it was actually fun, but I couldn't go for 3 nights. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn executive session?
So moved.
Second, Terry, yes.
Colton, yes?
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion passes. We will return to regular session. 11.1. Do I have a motion to approve the
Be it
potential
resolved, the
action?
governing board approves and authorizes the district's legal counsel to proceed with potential settlement negotiations and legal proceedings, and authorize the superintendent and/or the assistant superintendent of operations to agree and settle and resolve the pending litigation upon the limits or terms as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Terry, yes.
Colton, yes.
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Motion carries. 11.2. Do I have a motion to approve potential approvals and directives to negotiate?
Be it resolved, the governing board approves, directs, and authorizes the superintendent, the senior executive officer of communications and strategic alliances, the deputy superintendent of operations, and/or the district legal counsel to negotiate on behalf of the district a proposed purchase or long-term land lease agreement between the district and the city of Litchfield Park in accordance with the general terms and conditions discussed and proposed in the executive session.
Second.
Can I say something, or? Okay. Because I believe strongly that this project is not quite ready. I think it's the wrong time, wrong place, wrong priority, and could put our district at severe financial risk. I am voting no.
Colton, yes.
I would not vote yes if I thought that were true. Yes.
I agree with Vicky. This is a negotiation. We are not agreeing to anything by voting yes at this time, and my vote is yes.
To piggyback on what Ms. Acton said, is we're not agreeing to spend any money yet. We're agreeing to continue talking and to allow administration to bring back more information and continue the process, so I vote yes also. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Terry, yes.
Colton, yes.
Landis, yes.
Acton, yes.
DeCoste, yes. Meeting adjourned.
You like that so moved?
I tried that back in 2023.